I'm Garrett, and for years my parents had ignored every boundary I tried to set, barging into my apartment without permission, letting themselves at all hours, rearranging things, and making me feel like my personal space didn't matter, until finally, I realized that subtle conversations, polite reminders, and even outright confrontations weren't going to stop their intrusion, so I made a decision that no one saw coming. I secretly moved out, leaving them to deal with the consequences themselves, and let the police handle what I had been enduring in silence. It had started with small things, random visits, popping over without calling, casually walking into my apartment while I was at work or even asleep. But over time, it escalated into a constant violation of my privacy, making me feel trapped in a place that was supposed to be mine. Every attempt to assert myself was met with excuses, guilt-tripping, or outright denial, and the emotional weight of the situation began to pile on, until the stress of defending my own space consumed more of my energy than I could afford. I realized that confrontation alone wasn't enough. They weren't going to change, and the only way to reclaim my peace of mind was to act decisively. So I planned carefully, finding a new apartment quietly, arranging movers in secret, and timing everything so that by the time my parents realized I was gone, there would be no room for argument or manipulation. The night I moved, I felt a mixture of relief and tension, knowing that my absence would provoke confusion, anger, and questions, but also understanding that this was necessary for my own well-being. I left a forwarding address only with essential contacts and kept my new home off the radar, ensuring that any attempts by my parents to enter or claim access to my property would fail, leaving them exposed to the legal consequences of their repeated intrusions. It was a strange satisfaction, knowing that for once, I had outmaneuvered the people who had constantly overstepped, not through confrontation or anger, but through strategy, foresight, and careful planning. The first time they came knocking at my old apartment after I'd moved, the look on their faces was priceless. Confusion, disbelief, and a touch of panic as they realized the person they had always thought could be manipulated was gone. They tried calling, texting, and even asking neighbors if I had moved, but the truth was, they had no legal standing to enter, and the locks, the police reports, and the security measures I had put in place ensured that any further attempts to intrude would not go unnoticed. Within days, the police were involved, responding to reports of attempted entry, and I watched from a distance, calmly observing as the consequences of their disregard for boundaries unfolded naturally. It was not about revenge, exactly, but about establishing limits they had repeatedly ignored, proving that respect and personal space are not optional and that violating them carries real consequences. In the weeks that followed, I settled into my new apartment with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. No unexpected visitors, no intrusions, no feeling of being constantly watched or manipulated. Just quiet control and a reassurance that my space was finally mine. Meanwhile, my parents navigated the fallout, dealing with police, filling out reports, and facing the reality that their actions had consequences far beyond the nagging arguments they had expected. I didn't gloat, I didn't taunt, and I didn't make a spectacle of it. I simply maintained my distance, letting the situation resolve itself naturally while I focused on my life, my work, and the peace I had earned through careful planning and decisive action. The experience taught me that boundaries are not suggestions, that patience has its limits, and that sometimes the most effective way to protect yourself is to act quietly, decisively, and without giving others the satisfaction of knowing your strategy until it has already succeeded. By the time everything settled, I had reclaimed my life, my space, and my sense of control. My parents had learned, through legal channels and their own confusion, that boundaries are real and must be respected. And I had learned that peace is worth more than confrontation, that strategic action can be more powerful than argument, and that independence sometimes requires bold, careful steps that assert your rights without relying on anyone else's understanding. Walking into my new apartment for the first time without the fear of intrusion, I felt a profound sense of relief, triumph, and quiet satisfaction, knowing that I had not only escaped a toxic situation, but had done so in a way that taught the lesson clearly, permanently, and without unnecessary conflict.